What's up, everybody? GeauxBurns climbing out of a cabin window at Mount Soapbox for another rant. Today, we're doing something a little different. This past Friday was Friday the 13th, which is a very superstitious day. At least in America it is. But more importantly, there's a movie franchise with the name Friday the 13th that a lot of people are fans of. And there's also a video game called Friday the 13th, the game, which I do play occasionally along with some of my friends, Azerlin, Sky, Tronic, Gooners, and a few others as well. By the way, I'm going to link their channels below in the description section. FYI, they are awesome, and they post good content. Not always Friday the 13th. Azerlin loves also doing Dead by Daylight and some other games as well. And I thought that this would be a good day to rant about Friday the 13th, the game. Now, I'm not going to go up and be like, this is why Dead by Daylight's better than Friday the 13th. No, we're not doing that. We're focusing solely on Friday the 13th. For one thing, I've never played Dead by Daylight. I've watched tons of people play it, including Azerlin, but I've yet to play it myself. Anyways, we're going to focus specifically on Friday the 13th in this rant video. Now, when it comes to Friday the 13th, the game, it's a game that's either as good, fun, or bad as those you play with. For example, I have a really good time playing Friday the 13th with Aswin, Sky, Tronic, Gooners, Brandy, a few others as well, and that's when the game's fun. When you have other people to play with that you're goofing off with, role-playing with, just having fun, shits and giggles, making jokes, coming up with lines, being silly, funny, creative at the same time while getting murdered or doing the hacking and slashing as Jason. But whenever you're going up against randoms that are kind of boring and randoms that you don't understand because they're in different parts of the world, yeah, it's not as fun. Unless, I guess, you just love being Jason, you just love running around the camp, murdering people left and right in all sorts of different brutal ways, then I guess that's fun to you, but to me, I honestly prefer playing the counselor because I suck as Jason. Now, what's fascinating about Friday the 13th, the game, is that it did not start off as Friday the 13th, the game. The developing team, Gun Media, obviously are huge fans of Jason and the Friday the 13th franchise, but the original version of this game was actually Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp, which was paying an homage to the Friday the 13th franchise. But they were so well received with their demo that Sean S. Cunningham, the director of the original Friday the 13th film, I guess he had control of the rights to it. He gave them the rights to basically take Slasher Volume 1 and transform it into Friday the 13th, the video game. And through fan funding, from a Kickstarter, elsewhere, they were able to raise, I think, at least $1 million in order to make Friday the 13th, the game, a reality. And so, on May 26, 2017, Friday the 13th, the game launched on PC, PS4, Xbox One for $40 US. And this past Friday, it was launched on disc, hard copy, at retail stores, Friday the 13th, 2017, for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, the theme behind the game is pretty obvious for those of you that have played Friday the 13th. It's a survival horror game pitting one person against several others, depending on how many people are in the lobby, sometimes 8, sometimes 7, sometimes less. Jason versus the counselors. There's 10 different versions of Jason to choose from. Some are limited editions like Savini Jason, and most people don't have Savini Jason, but you still have different Jasons you can choose from depending on whether or not you've unlocked a Jason or not. The same thing goes for counselors. There's at the moment 10 counselors in the game, and once again, a lot of that's through unlocking. So you unlock better counselors or different varieties of counselors by doing the matches. Playing as counselors, as Jasons, you get XP, and you rank up, and you're able to unlock other counselors, other Jasons, along with outfits for the counselors. And you can even spend that XP on perks for the counselors, which improve their chances of escaping, as well as different executions and kills for Jason. Now, as a counselor, if you get killed by Jason, there is a chance that you could come back to life as Tommy Jarvis, who's technically not a counselor, but it's kind of cool that they have that ability because a lot of times I end up easily being hunted down and murdered by Jason or whoever's playing as Jason. And it's kind of cool to get a second chance to come back as Tommy Jarvis. Now, you can escape as a counselor through several ways. Via a car, getting various parts for either the 2-door or the 4-door car, depending on the map. Sometimes there's a boat and you have to get parts of the boat, as well as calling the cops, simply surviving the 20-minute time limit. Or the counselors have the ability to kill Jason. It's not easy, but it can be done. You have to knock off the mask, you have to have his mother's sweater, and Tommy has to still be alive, and so does a female counselor, because only a female counselor can wear Jason's mother's sweater. It's very complicated, but it's kind of cool that you have different ways and means of defeating Jason in Friday the 13th, the game. The obvious is, getting the hell out of Dodge as fast as you can before he gets really, really strong and gets the rage built up. On the flip side, as Jason, the objective is pretty simple. You kill as many of the counselors as you can with the hope of murdering them all within the 20-minute time limit. Now, despite the fact that this game is obviously very fun to play with the right people, like friends, certain randos, sometimes you'll come across a really hilarious rando and you develop a friendship, you friend request each other on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and you're able to play with them. And that's what makes the game really good, is whenever you have, certain types of people to play with, whether they're funny, they're silly, they're ridiculously crazy. That's what makes the game fun, in my opinion. Now, since launch, unfortunately, Friday the 13th has had a wide variety of bugs, glitches, freezes, crashes, and other issues on PC as well as PS4, and especially Xbox One. And for a time, it was almost unplayable on the Xbox One. There's also the issue of graphical, technical problems that have plagued the game since launch as well. Now, I've been playing Friday the 13th since launch back in May, first on PlayStation 4, then eventually on PC, and I've seen a lot of shit in this game. A lot of crazy stuff has gone down. So here's a list of things I've seen firsthand, and this does not include everything. There's probably a lot more out there that I've yet to witness. Okay, floating counselors, cars being flipped upside down, you can't use them anymore. Fuses, other items being glitched into the ground. Noises like Jason, trying to break down doors, being heard from across the map when you shouldn't be hearing that. Jason unable to grab counselors or even move or even use his executions. Counselors hiding on top of the cabin roofs or on deer heads. Are somehow getting off the map. They climb up top some rocks and they get off the map where Jason can't get to them. Jason counselors sent flying into the air, as well as hitbox problems, which is still a main problem in the game. Most of you that are Friday the 13th, the game fans, probably could add a few things to that list as well. So there has been a number of quote-unquote free updates added to the game, which has kept a little bit of life in Friday the 13th, the game. For example, they added a retro Jason skin, which pays homage to the original NES Friday the 13th game. It's kind of cool. It has a weird 8-bit soundtrack to it. Then there were some small maps that they added, as well as most recently, the biggest free update so far, Part 4 Jason, along with the ability to have new weather effects on all the maps, rain and storm. Then, of course, a brand new map, the Jarvis map, which is a really nice map, by the way. And then we got a new counselor as well, this hippie called Mitch. Oh, we also got emotes added to Friday the 13th a while back, too. But the problem is, these updates seem to either not fix the current issues in the game, or they end up adding new problems to Friday the 13th, the game. But there's also been paid content as well, as to be expected. Now, the paid content's not that expensive. I think they started off as $2, and then after a week it rises up to $4. The first one was a clothing pack, the Spring Break clothing pack, which added a lot of little sexy bathing suits for some of the female counselors. And, of course, some of us are going to run around wearing that, right? And then they went and they added this emote party pack 1. And it really makes you wonder, why would anyone buy this? Why do people care for emotes? We already have some free emotes in the game. I realize that these new party pack emotes, involve dancing, but at the same time, as someone that's just playing the game for the sake of playing it with my friends, goofing off, trying to escape or not get murdered by Jason, which 9 times out of the 10 happens to me, I don't care about these emotes. I only used them one time just for fun, the free emotes, not the paid emotes. I'm not going to pay for those, but it is funny to see what people are willing to pay for when it comes to video games, right? So despite having different looks, strengths, weaknesses, weapons, as well as kill animations, for the most part, Jason is still Jason. And it's unfortunate because of the fact that there is another killer in the Friday the 13th franchise. No, I'm not talking about Roy. I'm talking about Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mom, the original killer. I know, spoilers for all of you that never watched any of the Friday the 13th films. She is the original killer from the very first film. And I really wish that they would have also included her as a killer, because she would bring something different to the game, a different type of killer than what you expect from Jason's killer, even though there's different versions of Jason with obvious strengths and weaknesses and different kill animations. I just feel like that this is something that's needed in the game, a different type of killer. I realize that Dead by Daylight has multiple types of killers, which is awesome, but we're not comparing Dead by Daylight to Friday the 13th. We're going with what is already in the franchise, and Pamela Voorhees exists, and I really wish that we had a killer that was Pamela Voorhees and just had her operate more like a counselor, where she could like sneak through windows, be all stealthy, because obviously she's not as strong as Jason, but she's still a killer. She's still capable of murdering counselors just like she did in the first movie, and just use that to her strengths, you know, and then use something different as a method of killing her, like getting like a Jason t-shirt or Jason teddy bear and then getting the right machete to whack her head off, just like in the climax of the first Friday the 13th film. It would just be cool if we had a different killer, you know, to kind of, you know, change the game a little bit, just a little. I'm not asking for anything over the top or crazy like Freddy Krueger. I don't see that happening, even though there was a, you know, Freddy versus Jason film. I just don't think that's going to transpire. Now, the maps are cool, but at the same time, they are very, very similar, but that's understandable because of the fact that most of the movies are set around Camp Crystal Lake, with a few exceptions. Just perhaps we will get some variety, like a Manhattan map, as well as a houseboat map, you know, based off the SS Lazarus. Those two maps I just mentioned from Jason Takes Manhattan. It would just be cool if we had some different types of maps in the game. That would change it up as well. Even if we can't get a different type of killer, at least we can get different locations. Now, as I mentioned a few days ago, we got the disc version of Friday the 13th, the game, on Friday, October 13th for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. These came with exclusives for the disc. A Bloody Jason skin, as well as a Counselor clothing pack, exclusive for the disc version of Friday the 13th, the game, for PS4 and Xbox One. Now, I don't know if this content is going to remain exclusive indefinitely, or will it eventually become available for digital versions of Friday the 13th, the game as well, like Xbox One digital, PlayStation 4 digital, and of course, Steam. However, I gotta say this. It really does feel like a slap in the face to the loyal Friday the 13th, the game fans that have been playing this game from start to present day, you know, from launch May, 2017. Those of us that have endured the bugs, the glitches, the freezes, all the various issues that have plagued the game in the past, and those that still remain today. Now, some people will probably like, well, what about Savini Jason? Only certain people get Savini Jason, but those are Kickstarter backers, those people that donated to help fund the game. So naturally, they deserve something for, showing loyalty to the game long before it launched, long before it went beta. So I understand that. I understand that Savini Jason is limited edition, and those that supported the game before it was even a game, yeah, they deserve something. But we have been supporting the game and purchased the game since launch, May 2017. And myself, I've bought it twice. A digital version, by the way, on PS4, as well as the digital version via Steam. So hopefully, just hopefully, Gun Media will eventually add, more free content for Friday the 13th, the game, for every console, digital or disc. And they even put up a map a few weeks ago, showing all the content that was going to come. Now, we've already gotten to the new Counselor, and I guess we have new clothing coming before Halloween. That's where the pumpkin is, I guess. So we got some new clothing coming out, hopefully, before Halloween. And it'll probably be a clothing pack, so we'll probably have to purchase it for like $2. But then there's like a virtual cabin coming along with another new Counselor. I think it's going to be Foxy, I think. Then there's going to be a new map. Then sometime after Christmas, there's going to be a new Jason, more new clothing, some new single-player game modes, and then another new Jason, and then another new map. So we do have more free content coming to Friday the 13th, the game. So the good news is, despite the problems, the issues, the bugs, glitches, freezes, the team killing, which no longer exists in the game, fortunately, unless you use a car, are in like a friend lobby where you are okay with killing each other if you want, if that's your thing, so be it. IllFonic, along with Gun Media, has really put a lot of love into Friday the 13th, the game, and they are continuing to support it with more content that's going to be rolled out over the next few weeks and months. Some of it obviously will be paid content, like new clothing packs and emote packs. If you're into that sort of thing, like I said, it's your prerogative. If you want to give IllFonic and Gun Media, $2 or $4, just so you can have different emotes for your counselors, then so be it. I prefer clothing packs, so to each their own. The final thing I want to point out is that there have been a ton of issues with Friday the 13th, the game. And you can say there's also a bit of repetition, which unfortunately exists in most games as well, along with monetization, which is a lot worse in many other games out there than, $2 packs here or there for Friday the 13th, the game. What I will say is this. The fact is, IllFonic is not a AAA developer. They're an indie developer. And they didn't have nearly as big of a budget as some of the other video games that are out there that are less popular. So they had a lot less to work with money-wise in order to produce this video game for all of us to enjoy. Despite the flaws, all the issues, everything we talked about, the problems that this game has, warts and all, when you're playing Friday the 13th with randoms as well as friends that you enjoy having a good time with, the game is fun. It is a blast to play. On the flip side, it's not as fun when you're just grinding, trying to unlock new counselors, new Jasons, new clothing for counselors, trying to get enough points to get more perks, as well as new kill animations for Jason. The grinding can be very time consuming, and I kind of wish that once a counselor escaped or was killed and you just didn't want to watch the rest of the match unfold because you're playing with randoms, you could simply exit and just get your XP and then go off to the next lobby instead of having to sit there and wait. It's all right whenever you're playing with friends because you want to see if any of them are going to survive or die, and how are they going to die? That's fun. But when you're just trying to grind, yeah, it can be a pain in the ass. But from the time setting, the 80s vibe, the music, the feel, the look of this game is definitely Friday the 13th. And for all of its issues, IllFonic, Gun Media did get that right. And despite the fact that there's been only one other Friday the 13th game that is remembered with adulation, and that's from the NES title from back in the day, I think it would be difficult for another developer, or even a AAA developer, to have made a Friday the 13th game that would have put so much love and attention to detail and Easter eggs from various films throughout the Friday the 13th franchise as Phonic did. That being said, Friday the 13th, the game, definitely still has a lot of rough edges that need to be hacked and slashed away. But hopefully in time, the developer will get most of the bugs, issues, glitches, freezes, crashes hammered out. Maybe by the time we get the final season of Game of Thrones. Anyways, if you are interested in sending me a rant suggestion, be it about Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead, Mafia, gaming in general, or YouTube, feel free and send your rant suggestions my way via the comment section, Twitter, or Facebook. By the way, everything linked below in the description section. And I get the feeling that there may be one or two comments asking me for a Dead by Daylight rant, which most likely isn't going to come next Sunday or the Sunday after that. But since I went and I ranted about Friday the 13th, the game, the good stuff along with the bad stuff, I might as well, right? In other words, I guess it's high time for me to break down, go purchase Dead by Daylight, and start playing it with my friends as well in order to get off the hook. Besides, rumor has it, another horror icon might be coming to Dead by Daylight. My favorite of all time, Mr. Krueger. So if he's coming to Dead by Daylight, I'm definitely going to Dead by Daylight.